What's going on, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is the bare minimum, and I'm your boy, Bryant Marcos. We're back for another exciting year of Knicks basketball, where the Knicks fulfilled all the hopes that we had or didn't have in the team last season, finishing with a record of 41-31 that was good enough for 4th in the Eastern Conference and reestablishing themselves as a premier defensive team in the league. However, just like any story, there has to be some dark moments, and unfortunately for us, we asked for the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs. Don't lie, you asked for them too. And Trae Young absolutely whooped our asses. It also didn't help that our 1-2 punch of Julius Randle and RJ Barrett vanished like this guy. And although we can throw as many excuses as we want out there, the truth of the matter is the Atlanta Hawks were just a better team than us, and we deserved to exit when we did. But come on, New York, we can't let that one series define an entire season that uplifted this city. I happened to go to game 2 of that series against the Hawks, and let me tell you, the Garden was electric. I mean, what else would you expect from a fan base that is starving for wins? So when a season like last year comes along, it's kind of hard for us to not jump at the opportunity to be, well, overly confident. Which brings us to now. A fan base so eager for more that we had the preseason sounding like Game 7s in the playoffs. So what do we have in store for this year? Let's jump into it. We gotta start off with the preseason, where the Knicks ended up finishing their campaign 4-0. Now, these are preseason games, so I know that they don't count, but this was a very important stretch for us Knicks fans. During the offseason, we ended up replacing 2 out of the 5 starters that we had. Now, without question, Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier are significant improvements in that starting 5 over Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock. But still, you had to wonder, how long would it take for this team to gel? Well, if you watched any of the games during the preseason, you could tell that these guys fit right in. I mean, Julius Randle was still getting his touches, RJ Barrett looked more aggressive, and everybody on the team just seemed to play like one unit. Now, it's not all sunshines and rainbows here in Knicks Nation. We did see a couple of variations of Knicks teams during those 4 games. I mean, for example, with the Pacers, we had a flawless Knicks performance. But then with the Detroit Pistons, we saw a sluggish team. So yeah, Knicks Nation, this stretch was very important. And I think the Knicks actually passed with flying colors because we found ways to win. And against teams that experts are saying we're going to be playing against when it comes seeding time for the playoffs. But those games don't count, Bryant. We have the CELTICS tonight in the season opener. What are we going to do to beat them? Well, let me tell you. We start off this season with 3 matchups to round out the first week of the year. One against the pesky Leprechauns up north, that'll be our home opener, and then a 2-game set with the Orlando Magic. 1 home, 1 away. So let's start off with our home opener tonight at 7:30 against the Boston Celtics, a team that last season we had a better record than, and we even ended up taking the season series. But what did they do in the offseason to get better? Well, for starters, Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier were let go, and Celtics fans couldn't be happier. Kemba Walker was injury prone throughout his time with the Boston Celtics, and for them, it was a better decision to build around their all-star duo in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. As for Evan Fournier, it was more so a decline in production. He was brought in mid-season to try to provide a spark going into the playoffs. However, it really didn't do much as the Celtics finished in 7th place and then got taken out in the first round of the playoffs. They then brought back seasoned veteran Al Horford and now nomad Josh Richardson. Both acquisitions I think are going to have really good years for them because they're trying to prove to the league that they can still play. But the most important move that the Boston Celtics had this year was the promotion of Brad Stevens to general manager, and his replacement, Ime Udoka as the new head coach. Now, we already know that Brad Stevens is a brilliant basketball mind, but already as a general manager, he's proving that he's up for the job, addressing immediate needs for this team. My point is that the Celtics didn't really make flashy moves this offseason. However, what they did do is get better. So what do the New York Knicks have to do to start off this year with a victory over the Boston Celtics? Well, for that, we got to start off with the matchups in the backcourt. As Knicks fans, we have to be excited about the attitude that RJ Barrett has coming into the year. He wants to be that two-way player that Tibbs always seems to have on his teams. Most recently, Jimmy Butler. Now, whether or not RJ Barrett can reach those heights, we don't know yet. But I said it a lot last season, Jimmy Butler is the player that RJ Barrett should model his game after. A player who can control the pace of a game, even when he's not having an explosive scoring night. RJ had this to say about taking on the challenge of becoming that two-way player. Being a two-way player is something that I've always strived for, something I want to do. It's how I want to be known. Now, RJ is coming off a big season last year, reaching averages of 17.6 points per game, 5.8 rebounds a game, and 3 assists a game, all while efficiently shooting from the floor with marks above 40%. We're all looking for RJ to reach that 20-point a game mark this season, but with more offensive weapons, I'm curious to see if he can reach those. I would even be happy if he reached that 18.5 to 19 point per game mark as long as the team continues to compete and win. So I think I speak for the entire Knicks Nation when I say we're excited to see what RJ Barrett brings to the table this year. Now on the other hand, we have to worry about the cold-blooded assassin that comes straight out of Kobe Bryant's next-gen class, Jason Tatum. Another fellow Duke alum, Tatum has already reached that superstar status in the league by having signature moments, a unique skill set, and ice in his veins. He's coming off a monster year, averaging 26.4 points per game, 7.4 rebounds per game, and 4.3 assists. And it's hard to imagine that this man is going to let this Celtics team have a year like they did prior. Jason Tatum is already a player who wants those big moments. So I think if RJ Barrett legitimately wants to become that two-way player, it starts tonight by slowing down Jason Tatum. But speaking of skill sets, we have to talk about the skill set that the hometown kid Kemba Walker brings to this team. By the way, welcome home, Kemba. Now, he isn't the same player that he once was in college or even when he was with Charlotte. However, this guy has really improved his game from behind the arc, and I think Kemba Walker is going to be a great fit for this team. He's had some serious injuries over the last few seasons, but if he can stay healthy, we're looking at another candidate for an all-star spot. Even last year, while he was with the Celtics and going through those injury problems, he still managed to score 19.3 points per game and averaged nearly 5 assists. This man is a significant improvement from Elfrid Payton, and the fact that Derrick Rose is willingly giving up any competition for that starting role speaks to the caliber of player that we're getting. Now, he'll be going up against somebody who I think had the worst offseason of anybody. Of course, I'm talking about Dennis Schroeder. This guy gave up $84 million from the Los Angeles Lakers, only to sign a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Boston Celtics. Nevertheless, I respect the guy because he's betting on himself and he believes in his game. So that means that he's gonna go out there every single night and make a point to prove that he's not only worth more than the $6 million the Celtics gave him, but more than that $84 million offer the Lakers gave him. But also, not your best move, Dennis. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a win for the Knicks simply because of the fact that we have a deeper bench and we brought back most of the nucleus that we had last season. Top that off with the fact that this is going to be in front of a sold-out Madison Square Garden. And we have a guy in the name of Julius Randle who's trying to prove that last year's magic wasn't just a fluke. But speaking of magic, the New York Knicks will round out their week by playing the scrappy youngins down in Disney, once on Friday and then at home on Sunday. Now, both games will be at 7 p.m. and they should be relatively easy games for the New York Knicks to win. However, we saw that last year, the Orlando Magic always seemed to give us trouble. This offseason, the Orlando Magic really didn't do much other than continue their rebuild by acquiring more young talent. This time, they drafted Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner. So the key to the Knicks winning these games are very simple. Number one, stay focused. There were plenty of times last season where the New York Knicks stepped out on that floor and we thought to ourselves, wow, this team is going to be a tough out with anybody come playoff time. Only for them to come out the next game and completely flop against a team that they should have beaten. The second is big performances from our all-star, Julius Randle. Julius is coming off one of the most remarkable seasons in Knicks history. He improved statistically in every category in the book from year one with the team. And despite his no-show against the Hawks in the playoffs, he deserved everything that came his way after. He averaged career highs in points at 24, rebounds at 10, and assists at 6. He was named Most Improved Player of the Year and signed a 4-year, $117 million deal. That money was only short of the max because he left money on the table for the Knicks to have more wiggle room to create a championship roster later on down the line. That's why we love him. I expect big performances from Julius Randle where he drops 26 or more points in both games, and for the New York Knicks to finish out this week 3-0. But regardless of what happens, let's hold that excitement as the front office has yet again had another exceptional offseason. We re-signed Julius Randle, our all-star, on a reduced rate. We brought back the nucleus and majority of the key pieces that led to that run last year in Derrick Rose, Nerlens Noel, and Alec Burks. And on top of that, our youth core has never looked brighter. Not to mention that we drafted well again. Deuce McBride and Quentin Grimes are going to be key pieces moving forward. The only downside that we had was that Theo Pinson is no longer with us. The heart and soul of that celebration platoon that we had on the bench last year. Overall though, my prediction stands as the New York Knicks having 46 wins this year and having another crack at the playoffs. That's your bare minimum for week 1 of the 2021-2022 season. Knicks Nation, let me know in the comments section below what your predictions are and what you guys think of my picks for week 1. Also, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm Brian Marcos, and I'll catch you guys next week.